The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Chapter 1. Once when I was 6 years old, I saw a beautiful picture in a book about the primeval forest called True Stories. It showed a boa constrictor swallowing an animal. Here's a copy of the drawing. The book stated, boa constrictors swallow their prey whole without chewing it, whereupon they can no longer move and sleep for 6 months digesting it. I then reflected deeply upon the adventures in the jungle, and in turn succeeded in making my first drawing with a colored pencil. My drawing number 1 was like this. I showed my masterpiece to the grown-ups and asked them if my drawing frightened them. They answered, "Why should anyone be frightened by a hat?" My drawing did not represent a hat. It was supposed to be a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. So I made another drawing of the inside of the boa constrictor to enable the grown-ups to understand. They always need explanations. My drawing number 2 looked like this. Grown-ups then advised me to give up my drawings of boa constrictors, whether from the inside or the outside, and to devote myself instead to geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar. Thus it was that I gave up a magnificent career as a painter at the age of 6. I had been disappointed by the lack of success of my drawing number 1 and my drawing number 2. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, and it is rather tedious for children to have to explain things to them time and again. So I had to choose another job, and I learned to pilot airplanes. I flew more or less all over the world, and indeed geography has been extremely useful to me. I am able to distinguish between China and Arizona at a glance. It is extremely helpful if one gets lost in the night. As a result of which, I have been in touch throughout my life with all kinds of serious people. I've spent a lot of time with grown-ups. I've seen them at very close quarters, which I'm afraid has not greatly enhanced my opinion of them. Whenever I meet one who seemed reasonably clear-sighted to me, I showed them my drawing number 1, which I had kept as an experiment. I wanted to find out whether he or she was truly understanding, but the answer was always, "It is a hat." So I gave up mentioning boa constrictors or primeval forests or stars. I would bring myself down to his or her level and talk about bridge, golf, politics, and neckties, and the grown-ups would be very pleased to have met such a sensible person. Well, there you have it. So what is he talking about? Well, basically, when he was young, he was looking in a nature book called True Stories about the primeval forest, saw a picture that fascinated him of a boa constrictor eating an animal, and then he started drawing. He was 6 years old when this happened. He drew a picture of a boa constrictor from the outside, which unfortunately resembled a hat, and to clarify, he drew like an x-ray picture where you could see that the boa constrictor was digesting an elephant. And whenever he showed the adults, they basically reprimanded him, told him to stop being foolish and to get serious, study things like arithmetic, history, geography, and grammar, and forget about wasting his time. So, to get along, he did that, and whenever he met adults, he would talk about serious matters. When he met somebody who he thought was a person of true understanding, somebody who was on his wavelength, somebody who understood what's important in life, he would experiment. He'd show him a picture of his drawing number one, the boa constrictor from the outside, and every time he would be greatly disappointed because the person would say, it's a hat. So instead of exposing himself and being called a fool, at that point he would just talk about serious matters like neckties and golf and bridge and things like that. So he's basically saying that, he had to stifle his true self and act like everybody else so that he wouldn't be ridiculed or whatever. So he's kind of lonely and disappointed, but he knows how to manage people. So that's chapter 1. We'll continue with this book. This book was a favorite of mine for many years. I've read it probably 100 times, maybe more, maybe less. Many, 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 many times I read this book. People I've met over the years who've also read the book have always read it as a children's book, and they've taken a very surface reading of it. But this book is actually very full of philosophy and psychology, and it really says a lot. And there's a lot more depth to the book if you read it that way. A very surface reading, you get a very simple story, but I'll comment on each chapter, and maybe you people will see the book as I see it and discover what a true gem it really is. Anyway, till next time, who loves you, baby? This guy, don't forget it. Remember, you're somebody's favorite person in this world, maybe mine. And if you're going through difficult times, hopefully we can get through it together, spend some time together, and yeah. Till next time, goodbye. Remember, love you, and goodbye.